Welcome to Downtown Sports. My name is Downtown Stephen Brown, and in today's video, guys, I want to talk about what's next for the Toronto Maple Leafs after trading away Nick Ritchie and acquiring Ilya Lyubushkin the other day. Well, on the most recent edition of the 32 Thoughts podcast, Elliotte Friedman, I'm laughing because I filmed an entire video, the podcast dropped, this quote came out, and I had to delete the entire thing and start over again. But Friedman saying that he doesn't want to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, but he still does believe that there's a possibility that Travis Dermott or Justin Holl gets moved. You have to remember that both Travis Dermott and Justin Holl were also in trade rumors earlier in the season before a guy like Nick Ritchie was even being thought of to be placed on waivers. And at one point, Chris Johnson had reported that a trade almost happened. I can understand how a guy like Travis Dermott is in trade rumors, because since the beginning of the new year, he has averaged the least amount of ice time for any Maple Leafs defenseman at 5-on-5, and he doesn't particularly play a special team either. And it's not like he throws any big hits or drops the gloves. Mind you, in those limited minutes, he's playing a fairly neutral role on the Maple Leafs third pair, and the numbers have been good, but at the same time, I can understand if you're looking to make an upgrade elsewhere on this team or higher up in the lineup, $1.5 million coming off the cap would help. Justin Holl, I mean, we've touched on this before in previous videos. He can be a really streaky player. I mean, since the beginning of the new year to just before Jake Muzzin got back from injury, so just before that game against the Calgary Flames, he was third in average time on ice at 5-on-5 among Maple Leafs defenders, and in those minutes, the Maple Leafs controlled the vast majority of the shot attempts, the actual shots, the actual goals, 11-4, the expected goals, the scoring opportunities, and the high danger shot attempts as well. But even when Holl has played primarily next to Muzzin since he's gotten back from that concussion, the underlying numbers are insanely in their favor. The problem with it is that in those 3 games that were on the road against the Flames, Canucks, and Kraken, when Justin Holl was on the ice at 5-on-5, the Maple Leafs were outscored 5-1. Those 5 goals against aren't necessarily going to show up here, but if you watch those plays break down, it is it's shocking. It definitely doesn't inspire confidence is what I'm trying to say. But to be fair to the underlying numbers, when Justin Holl and even Jake Muzzin were visually struggling towards the beginning of the season, the underlying numbers supported that as well. If the idea behind trading Justin Holl is that if you include him in a deal to get someone who's better than him, then maybe you don't have to give up as much, then I'm cool with it. But purely as a cap dump, no. That's still a useful player who can be effective lower in your lineup in less minutes. And he has shown flashes of being able to be effective in your top 4. It's just a bit of a dice roll. I don't necessarily have an opinion on the matter just yet. More so just a question for now, because there still is time to ask questions. But what it would cost to acquire someone better than Justin Holl, who could also play next to Jake Muzzin, because it has to be a fit. And I keep coming back to that Sheldon Keefe quote from the middle of January, where he spoke about what Muzzin has struggled with so far. And that's making decisions with the puck and moving the puck. So, in my mind, I don't think it really makes sense to acquire someone and play him next to Muzzin if he also struggles with those things. You would just be compounding the issue. But the problem with finding someone who is good at moving the puck and make smart decisions with it is that those guys don't grow on trees, especially of the right-handed variety. Maybe it would be easier to find someone to play next to Morgan Rielly, and you can pair TJ Brody with Jake Muzzin, but at the same time, I don't think that they want to do that, and I don't even know if they should. Morgan Rielly, TJ Brody, it's been consistent all year. It was consistent all of last year as well. And even the game where the Maple Leafs put their D pairings in a blender against the Penguins, that pair stayed together the entire game. I don't see that being a possibility. So, just to go over our options here, you could roll the dice on Justin Holl and put it all on red or black, and who knows? You could go out and pay the sun and the moon to acquire an option who would inspire a little bit more confidence. Or you could give more of an opportunity to Timothy Liljegren over the next little while. The majority of the ice time that he has played this year has been in a sheltered role, but about a third of the ice time that he's played at 5-on-5 has been with Jake Muzzin. And some of that has been adventurous, and other times it's been hopeful. We are exactly 1 month away from the trade deadline, and between now and then, the Leafs will play 14 more games. And in those 14 games, I want to see Timothy Liljegren next to Jake Muzzin as much as possible. Because we already know what Justin Hall is, but we don't know what Timothy Liljegren could be if you just trusted him a little bit. The same goes for Rasmus Sandin as well. You know, I'm not expecting Jake Muzzin, Timothy Liljegren, shutdown pair playing up against the other team's best players all the time. You know, like 20% offensive zone start percentage. No. You trust Liljegren, you trust Sandin, you spread that responsibility out a little bit, and you let your young, talented players carry you. Or they don't. But then you would have that question answered between now and the trade deadline. Even if Sandin and Liljegren are just okay between now and the trade deadline, playing in a more elevated role, and the Leafs don't go out and acquire another top 4 defenseman at the deadline, there still is another 21 more games between the deadline and the end of the regular season. 2 more games against the Lightning, 2 more games against the Panthers. There's going to be opportunities to see what you're matching up against potentially. So what bet are we making here? Are we paying the sun and the moon, or are we going to rely on our young players and a dice roll? In terms of how much cap space the Maple Leafs will even have available to them at this year's deadline to make another move, after Ryan Dzingel was placed on waivers, they'll more than likely recall Rasmus Sandin, and that would leave them with just about the same amount of space that they had before. In fact, slightly more, because Lyubushkin's cap hit is $25,000 less than what Nick Ritchie's was buried in the minors. How much cap space the Maple Leafs will have available to them after that is kind of unclear, because it depends on obviously who they move, but also when they do it. The Maple Leafs, when they recall Rasmus Sandin, will have 8 defensemen on their roster. They don't need 8 guys there, but at the same time, I want Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren playing as much as possible. Yeah, there's going to be injuries, but at the same time, if you want as much cap space as you could possibly have to acquire the guy who is better than Justin Hall, you need to seriously consider moving out Travis Dermott, like, now. The longer you wait, the less cap space that you would gain from that deal. Dermott doesn't necessarily have positive trade value, but he doesn't have negative trade value either. I don't think you get a lot for him. You just accept that it's cap space coming off your books right now and for next year as well, and it gives you room to make a move that you want to. And it wouldn't even necessarily affect their depth, because if they're trading away Travis Dermott and you're acquiring another defenseman, you'd still have 8 guys. I'm not trading both Dermott and Hall. And behind them, there still is Alex Biega and Carl Dahlstrom, who, between them, have over 300 games of NHL experience. I know everyone is focused on the defense, and they should, but at some point, you have to start asking yourself, if we're paying this ridiculous price to upgrade on Justin Hall, and the upgrade is marginal, would you be better off spending that first round pick on a forward and getting a serious upgrade to their top 9? It's not that I'm not willing to pay a lot for a good top 4 defenseman. It's just that prices right now for defensemen are insane. And if the upgrade is only going to be marginal, it may not make sense. But that's going to be it for the video, guys. So make sure to let me know what your thoughts and opinions are down in the comment section below. As always, what do you want to see them do? Are you comfortable rolling the dice on Justin Hall? Do you want to give a larger role to our young and talented players and see if they can run with it? And if they are playing well come the deadline, are you okay with not getting a top 4 guy and maybe allocating those assets to getting an upgrade in the Maple Leafs top 9? I mean, Alex Kerfoot playing next to Tavares and Nylander has been good, but feels like that's also a spot that you could get a little bit more from, is what I mean. Or do you just want to pony up and pay the price and get the legit top 4 guy and you're fine with the forward core? I don't know. I don't know. But like I said, that's going to be it. Make sure to like the video if you did like it and subscribe for more because more is always on the way. And I'll see you in the next one.